So I think on the whole, this was a good night. It wasn't a huge, I don't think she moved the ball that much forward, but she certainly didn't fall back.
And I do think I think she moved the ball forward a little bit. You know, maybe she didn't score a touchdown tonight, but she definitely moved down the field.
So we're not going to waste time. Let's dive into Kamala Harris' interview on CNN, where she brought along her emotional support dog, Tim Walz. And now, I don't know if you caught this, but it was a rough moment. No pun intended. Honestly, I think the Harris campaign is in full-blown damage control right now, and for good reason. Even with soft, no follow-up question from Dana Bash, Harris just didn't come off well at all. Like, this was supposed to be scripted, controlled environment, and yet it turned out to be a disaster. Now, let's put this into perspective. Like, the interview was just 16 minutes long, and CNN didn't even release the full transcript. We've got to wonder, what are they hiding? If this was supposed to be the Harris at her best, then yikes. Ugh. I can only imagine what's going on behind the scenes. It's no surprise they're hesitating, or why they're hesitant to let her go off script or do unscripted media runs. This was just a perfect example of why. But we're not done yet. We're going to check out the CNN panel with Scott Jennings and the other Democratic operatives who will likely try to spin this disaster into something positive. Spoiler alert, good luck with that. So let's dive in and see how they try to salvage this one.
All right, Scott.
I agree with Ested about this idea of the question of who's going to change will be the fundamental defining question of the election. And I was sort of watching this, holistically. What is she saying? What does she look like? What's on the screen? So at the beginning, when she's talking about Biden and their record, our screen said, this is called the Chiron, the headline at the bottom. It said, Harris stands by Biden administration economic record. She is making it clear that she will embrace and be a continuation of Biden's economic policy, his record, what they've done. She offered no remorse, no regrets, no introspection about anything they've done. She continued to blame inflation on this fantasy price gouging idea. She had no additional thoughts on the economic situation in the country or what they've done beyond just saying, Joe Biden and I have done a great job. Now, if I were the Trump people, I would be salivating over the idea that that's how they are going to run the race. I don't believe it's tenable. I also thought it was interesting that she didn't take any responsibility at the end for telling the American people that Joe Biden was fine and he was strong. I mean, we all know that's not true. That's why he's out of the race, and she's still standing by the idea that he was fine and he's strong and that he's fine today. Nobody believes that, and I just think at some point, then why isn't he running?
Because he's too old, point blank. Same reason why Donald Trump probably shouldn't be running, because he's too old and out of touch.
I think most Americans know the truth, and when you're running to be president and you're willing to look them in the face and tell them something they know that you know is not true, it does speak a little bit to your character.
Jennings also highlighted Harris' bizarre attempt to keep up the illusion that Biden is strong and capable, despite everyone knowing that's just not the case. It's why he's out of the race, pretty much, and it's why her credibility is taking a hit right now. When you're running for president, you can't just look at the American people in the eyes and tell them something that's blatantly false. It damages your character, and Jennings sees right through the facade. Harris is embracing the very policies that have put this country in a bind and rampant inflation, border chaos, and a chaotic foreign policy. Instead of distancing herself from Biden's failure, she's wrapping herself in them like a cover and turning around the bed. Like, I don't understand. But that's a bold move, but not a smart one. It's like watching someone try to sell you ice it's like somebody trying to sell ice to an Eskimo. They're telling us the economy is doing great while most Americans are feeling the squeeze. And her inability to address Biden's cognitive decline is just the cherry on top. Jennings is right. The Trump campaign will seize on this moment. Harris is proving that many have. Harris is proving what. Harris is proving what many have suspected all along. She's not fit for the top job. She's great with a teleprompter, but take that away, she crumbles. So as we head into the election, remember this moment. Harris isn't just running on Biden's record, she's running away from the truth. And the American people deserves better.
Toll on people here and around the world, but around the world is not relevant here. And so to the degree that they can say, she is going to continue doing exactly what Joe Biden was doing for people who don't have confidence in Biden's policies, that is a prospective problem. I don't think the thing about, this whole thing about, you didn't say it tonight, but you've said before, and I just disagree with this notion that Dan actually asked a question. Well, you've been there for 3.5 years. No vice president makes policy. Okay, let's just make that clear.
Well,
nobody has said this
she did.
before. Nobody talks about the Pence years. Okay,
Well,
nobody talks about the Biden years when Obama was. But nobody does that. So, but it is a challenge for her to take credit for the things that are good, and to try and walk away from the things that are not.
What
But she did
struck
make
me-
policy, though. I mean, she said, I was the last person in the room on Afghanistan, and she cast many, many
doesn't-
tie-breaking votes in the
I don't
Senate.
think
She didn't.
that's necessarily-
That's different than saying that she made the
Yes.
decision.
Yeah.
She claimed to be his last and most principal advisor on Afghanistan. That is not.
She said
that's her words.
She said she was the last person in the room. Which
What
is
does
not
that mean
say
to
she
you?
created the
It
Afghanistan
means that
policy.
she told him whatever
Boy.
she thought, and he did whatever he thought
I do
he
think
wanted to do.
One of the things that struck me
The mainstream media seems to be doing some serious mental gymnastics to distance Harris from the failure of this administration. They're downplaying her role, even though she's been the front and center on key issues like the border and the economy. Remember when they called her the border czar? Yeah, they conveniently leaving that out right like now. And the facts are like Harris cast the deciding vote on several policies that have had a significant impact on our economy and border security. For instance, her tie-breaking vote was crucial in passing the American Rescue Plan, which has been criticized for fueling inflation. And as the so-called border czar, she oversaw a period of record high illegal border crossings. Yet the media is bending over backward to give her a pass. The bottom line is Republicans need to hammer home the point that Harris was not just a passive bystander. She was actively involved in shaping and implementing policies that have hurt the country. The media may try to cover her, but it's up to the GOP right now to make the case to the American people that Harris can't have it both ways, claiming credit for successes, however few, while dodging responsibilities for failures. Let's see how this plays out, but one thing for sure, the spotlight on Harris is only going to get brighter as the election nears.
The other thing, Scott, is she is not running against the Lord Almighty. She is running against Donald Trump, who himself has had a lot of position changes over the last many years.
Well, that's certainly what she wants to do, and what Trump wants to make this into is she's running to continue Biden. I mean, that you're setting up the framing correctly. She wants to make it a referendum on Trump. He wants to make it a referendum on Biden. Look, I think the two biggest issues coming out of Biden for her are the economic policies, which she clearly wants to embrace, but also the immigration policies. Dana asked her if she had anything to say about what they did for 3.5 years leading up until the back and forth this year. Completely sidestepped it, did not answer it. She goes back to her time as Attorney General. But again, absolutely nothing, no responsibility, no reflection at all on the day one executive actions or anything else they did for 3.5 years or anything she said in her previous campaign, which was to have the most permissive immigration structure. She's trying to skip a block of time at the debate. Trump cannot allow it.
Yeah.
That's why I love Scott, man. Scott is spot on. Harris and the Democrats are playing a dangerous game of everything is fine, even when we can all see it's not. It's like they're telling us the sky is green when we can clearly see it's blue. The economy is in rough shape, and simply blaming price gouging isn't going to cut it. You know, the facts are that inflation has been a persistent issue under Biden's administration, driven in part by policies like massive government spending through the American Rescue Plan. And this isn't just some right-wing talking point. Economists across the spectrum have flagged this as a problem. Meanwhile, Harrison was Biden's close advisor on key decisions, including the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, which, let's be honest, didn't exactly scream strong leadership. I think Scott also touches on the fact that Harris continues to back Biden's narrative that he's fit to lead despite his decision not to run again. It's like, I don't know what, they can't have it both ways. If he's so fit, right, to run for president, why isn't he in the race right now? It's a valid question. And the American people deserve a straight answer, you know? In conclusion, what I do think the Democrats and Harris, in particular, are trying to sell a version of reality that just doesn't align with what's actually happening in the country. Republicans need to keep hammering this point home. Harris has been a key player in this administration's decisions, and now she's trying to act like everything is just fine, which is not, but we know better. And it's up to us to make sure the American people do too. Let's see how Harris